Imagine waking up and everything you know, electricity, phones, even your name, doesn't exist. Now, what if I told you this isn't just time travel? It's survival against history itself? This isn't your average history lesson. We're going back 25 years, right into the year 1 BCE. A world where empires ruled, diseases were deadly, and your modern knowledge could either save you or get you killed. What would happen if you, an average person from 2025, suddenly landed in 1 BCE? Could you survive? Could you change history? Let's find out. Before going to 1 BCE, please like this video and subscribe my channel. Where exactly are you? You blink. A second ago, you were scrolling on your phone. Now, it's gone. No buzzing, no light, just silence. You stand in the middle of a dusty road under a blazing sun. Around you, stone buildings, some mud huts, carts being pulled by donkeys. The smell? Not great. A mix of sweat, dung, wood smoke, and unwashed everything. You look down. Your sneakers are the cleanest thing in sight. You're a walking question mark. But the real kicker? You don't even know what country you're in. Because 25 years ago, the world map didn't look anything like it does now. There's no USA, no UK, no borders the way you know them. You could be anywhere from the Roman Empire to ancient China to the middle of a Mesopotamian village. Let's say, for storytelling's sake, you land somewhere near Rome, maybe a little village just outside the capital. Why? Because this is where things were happening in 1 BCE. Power, politics, plays, and drama. You start walking. Heads turn. Your clothes are weird. Not robes, not tunics. You're not barefoot like most people. You look rich. Or possibly insane. A kid points. An old woman gasps. Two men in leather armor approach. Roman soldiers. They shout something, probably in Latin, but you don't understand a word. What do? You smile nervously. Maybe you give a thumbs up. Big mistake. You just gave them the ancient version of a middle finger. They scowl. And just like that, your first problem hits. You don't belong. Your skin tone might be different. Your haircut is weird. You're wearing zippers and plastic, stuff that literally doesn't exist yet. You could be a runaway slave, a drifter, or worse, a spy from a rival province. They grab you. You resist. They push you down. You're officially arrested. Welcome to 1 BCE, where misunderstanding equals manhandling. You're thrown into a holding cell made of stone and filth. It smells like mold and regret. You sit, heart pounding, wondering how the hell you're going to survive this. And the worst part? Your phone is dead. Not dead like needs charging, dead like completely useless rock. You sit alone in the damp, cold cell. Hours pass, maybe days. You lose track. The sounds from outside, people shouting in a strange language, the clop of hooves, the occasional scream become white noise. You think of home, of your bed, of pizza, and Wi-Fi. Eventually, a man in a robe, clearly someone with authority, visits you. He doesn't look angry. More curious. He speaks slowly. You shake your head. He tries again. Still no understanding. He gestures for your clothes. You hesitate but comply. He examines them like artifacts. Pokes at your zipper. Frowns at your watch. Taps your phone. You finally realize something. To him, you're an object of fascination. Not an enemy, not yet. You nod, trying to look harmless. Over the next few days, things start to change. A young boy, maybe his assistant, brings you food. Bread, olives, maybe some goat cheese. You try not to get sick. You try to smile. he starts teaching you words. You mimic. You repeat. It's hard, but it's working. Then, one day, he brings you outside. You blink in the sunlight. People watch. Some whisper. A few back away. But one man steps forward. A philosopher, perhaps. He asks you something. You don't understand. So, you draw in the dirt. You sketch a map. The continents. The round earth. The moon. The stars. Gasps. Someone calls it blasphemy. Others call it brilliance. And just like that, you go from prisoner to prophet. People bring you food. Ask for advice. Try to touch you. You play along, careful not to offend. You know just enough about science, medicine, and astronomy to impress, but not enough to explain it. You build trust. Learn faster. Trade knowledge for safety. Soon, the local leader invites you to a feast. You sit among men in togas, women in linen, candles flickering. You eat roasted lamb and dried figs. Drink watered wine. You're still scared. But now you're surviving. They ask about the future. You keep it vague. You don't want to disrupt history. You don't want to end up burned at the stake. So you say things like, plagues will come, but so will cures. Empires will rise, but all must fall. The stars guide us, but only if we know how to read them. They nod, impressed. You've become a mystery they want to solve. And as long as you keep that balance between fascinating and frightening, you'll live to see another day. But how long can you keep the act book? So now you're not in a cell anymore. You've convinced them you're not a threat. Maybe even something more. A wise wanderer, a healer, a philosopher. But that thin layer of protection? It's exactly that, thin. Your life still depends on how well you adapt. And now, it's time to put everything you think you know to the test. Let's talk survival. Not in a video game. In real life. Ancient life. First off, food. You're used to options. Grocery stores. Fridges. Fast food. But in 1 BCE, there are no stores. No refrigeration. No chocolate. Forget pizza or coffee, they don't even have tomatoes or potatoes in Europe yet. The diet here is simple. Flatbread made from barley or wheat. Goat milk. Dried figs and dates. Olive oil on everything. Fish, salted, pickled, smoked. And sometimes meat, but rarely. Your stomach? Probably going to revolt. You might lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks. No preservatives, no sugar, just whatever the village produces, catches, or trades. Now, let's talk hygiene. You may already be grossed out by the smell. But here's the thing, they don't know about germs. They don't bathe daily. Soap exists, kind of, but it's rare. Mostly made from ash and fat. You try to explain washing hands before meals. They laugh. You try to boil water before drinking. They squint at you like you've gone mad. But when people around you get sick and you don't, they start paying attention. You become the clean one. And people want to know your secrets. Now you're under pressure. Because your knowledge is basic. You can't build a microscope. You can't make antibiotics. But you can use what little you know. So you improvise. You teach them how to boil water. You show them how to bury their waste away from their homes. You try to copy soap from memory, fat, ash, and water. You even scrape together some crude antiseptic from garlic and honey. And it works, at least a little. People are still dying. It's 1 BCE, but fewer of them are dying near you. Then things escalate. Someone gets stabbed during a drunken fight at the market. Blood everywhere. They bring him to you, the healer. You panic. You have no tools, no training.
Just what you've seen in movies.
But you remember, pressure stops bleeding. Clean wounds don't get infected as easily. Infection smells. So you go to work, rip up your tunic. Press down hard. Clean it with boiled water. You smear on your garlic honey mix. Wrap it tight. You pray. He lives. You become a legend. People offer you gifts. Goats, bread, wine, their daughters' hands in marriage. You refuse, politely. Too much attention is dangerous. Because now the real power wants to meet you, the Roman governor. He sends for you. His villa is enormous. Marble pillars, mosaic floors, servants. He asks you questions through a translator now because you've picked up more of the language. He's curious, amused. You're careful. You talk about the stars, about balance, about knowledge passed through dreams. You don't tell him the truth. But he's suspicious. So he tests you. He brings you a scroll full of symbols. Latin, Greek, math. He asks, "Can you read this?" You squint. You can't. But you fake it. You point to a symbol and say, "This is fire." To another, "This is the sun." You say it's poetry, that only dreams can translate it. You speak in riddles. You quote things from books back home. Shakespeare, Einstein, the Bible. It sounds ancient. It sounds wise. He nods slowly. "Keep him," he says to a guard. "He may be useful." So now you're not just a guest. You're a tool of the Roman government. They house you, feed you, but also watch you. And outside, the people? They're whispering. Some say you're a gift from the gods. Others say you're cursed. A demon. One night, someone throws a rock through your window. You're shaken. You realize your days of safety are numbered. So you plan. You need to leave. You need to escape the spotlight. Maybe go east. Find a quiet village. Start over. Teach what you can. Avoid attention. But fate has other plans. Word spreads. Other cities sent messengers. Religious leaders come to question you. Scholars ask for debates. You're stuck. And now a problem arrives. A traveler, another outsider. But he's from this world. A con man, a rival. He claims you are stealing from his teachings. He challenges you publicly, calls you a fraud. The people are divided. The governor is curious. He arranges a debate. A crowd gathers in the forum. You step up, heart pounding. He speaks first. Long, flowery language. Myths, gods, blood sacrifices. Then it's your turn. You breathe. You talk about atoms. About the Earth's shape. About hygiene. About kindness. About balance. Silence. Then applause. He leaves, fuming. But now, everyone knows your name. You're not just surviving anymore. You're shaping things, changing them. And it's terrifying. You're one wrong word from being called a heretic. One misstep from being executed. So you keep walking the line. Teaching just enough. Hiding the rest. But you know one thing? You're no longer just a visitor. You're becoming history. And that's going to come at a price. Fame in the ancient world is a strange thing. It's not like Instagram or TikTok. You can't log off. You can't disappear with a name change or a private profile. In 1 BCE, if people know your name, it spreads fast. By mouth, by scrolls, by song. And now your name is everywhere. You wanted to survive. But instead, you're making waves. History isn't just passing by anymore. You're part of it. And history doesn't like surprises. Let's be real. You've done the impossible. You've influenced public health, changed how people think about cleanliness. You've sparked interest in the stars and raised questions about old myths. You've gone from prisoner to prophet and from outsider to influencer. But not everyone is happy. The resistance begins. Some religious leaders call you a false oracle. They say your words insult the gods. They fear your influence, especially over the young. You're too clean, too smart, too different. They whisper to powerful men, governors, priests, military commanders. They paint you as a threat. They call you an enemy of tradition. You see it in their eyes, suspicion, caution, and fear. And that's when your daily life starts to change. The gifts? Fewer. The visitors? More guarded. Even the servant who once brought you figs and bread now avoids eye contact. You're being watched, not out of curiosity now, but out of concern. So you lay low. Keep your teaching small. Talk about the stars and soil, not the future. Avoid words like electricity and germs. You try to blend back in. But it's too late. One of your students, a bright teen named Lucius, copies your ideas. Tries to explain them in the marketplace. Says the gods don't control the weather. That humans can understand the sky with reason. People cheer. And the priest reports him. Lucius is arrested. Accused of heresy. Of disrupting the divine order. And worst of all, of following you. They call you in to testify. The trial. You stand in the forum. A large crowd. The governor. Several priests. Lucius kneeling beside you. A priest speaks. This man claims he learned dangerous teachings from a stranger. A man with foreign words. A man who mocks our gods. All eyes turn to you. You speak carefully. Lucius is a curious soul, but I never taught him to reject the gods. I taught him to observe the stars, to understand soil and sickness. Knowledge is not an enemy, it is a tool. The governor leans in. And where did you learn these things? You pause. In my homeland, from elders and scribes, from the dreams of the wise. Silence. Then the governor speaks. Lucius shall be spared, but he is to leave the city. He turns to you. And you will speak no more of the gods. You bow. You smile. But inside, you know it's only a matter of time. Planning an exit. That night, you pack what little you have. Dried bread, figs, a simple tunic, and a carved wooden map a child once gave you. You're leaving. Not because you want to, but because survival demands it. You head east toward unknown lands. Away from Rome. Toward the edge of the empire. Travel is brutal. Roads are unpaved. Bandits roam freely. You sleep in ditches, drink from streams, and beg for food. Your body weakens, but your will? Stronger than ever. You meet traders along the way. They speak of far-off cities, of Alexandria, of Jerusalem, of Parthia. Places where people seek wisdom, where new ideas can take root. You choose Alexandria. A new world. Alexandria, the city of knowledge. Home of the great library. A crossroads of cultures, Egyptian, Greek, Roman, Jewish. You arrive ragged, sunburned, thin. But you see it, massive stone buildings. Towers, statues, scrolls. Merchants shouting in many tongues. Scholars debating in public squares. You feel hope again. You find a place to rest. A humble inn. You trade stories for meals. Fix shoes for coins. Slowly, you gather strength. And then you find it, the library. Or what's left of it. Time has already worn it down. But it still stands, a temple to thought. You enter. You weep. Scrolls upon scrolls. Knowledge preserved. You offer to clean, to copy, to translate. They test you. You pass. Your strange ideas catch the eye of an old scholar, Theon. He becomes your mentor. Or perhaps you become his. Together, you talk of stars, of numbers, of time. You feel safe, but change follows you. The final lesson. You tell them, don't worship me. Don't worship knowledge. Question, observe, learn, share, and theirs. One day, a fire breaks out in the lower quarter. People scream of signs, omens. Priests again blame foreign ideas. And once again, your name is whispered. But this time, you are ready. You gather Theon, your scrolls, your few friends, and you do something radical. You teach them to teach. Not just facts, but how to ask questions. And then you disappear. No one knows where you go. Some say you died in a storm. Others say you found a village and lived quietly. But your students? They lived on. And their students. And slowly, through whispers, scrolls, and memories, you became legend. Not for being a hero, but for changing the world. Just enough. Time has passed. Decades, maybe. You're a whisper in history. Your real name? Forgotten. Your face? Lost in time. But the ideas you left behind, they still echo. That's legacy. That's immortality. This chapter is not about escaping danger or teaching hygiene. It's about something bigger. What happens when you become a myth? A legend? A symbol? You changed a city. You sparked ideas in young minds. You laid the foundation of questions. Questions that would one day become science, philosophy, innovation. People begin to tell stories about you. The man who spoke to stars. The stranger who healed without potions. The teacher who vanished into the sand. Some think you were a god. Others say you were a demon. Some say you were an angel sent to warn the world. But here's the truth. You were just human, a lost traveler, someone with knowledge from a future world who stumbled backward in time. And still, you left the mark. As centuries roll by, scholars argue about you. Were you real? A myth? A metaphor? In dusty libraries, your name appears on scrolls, altered, translated, twisted. But present. In temples, people speak of a time when a star teller walked among us. Children sing songs about the sky man. And maybe, just maybe, 2,000 years later, in the very timeline you once left, someone hears your story in school, or reads it online, or sees it in a YouTube video, and wonders, was it real? Could one person really have changed that much? The truth is, yes. Because history isn't just battles and kings. It's the ideas we pass on. The questions we leave behind. And you, the accidental traveler, asked the right ones. You were remembered not because you forced your knowledge onto the world, but because you showed people how to think, not what to think. You planted seeds. And though you never saw them grow, they did. Your story is proof that even the smallest spark, in the right time, in the right place, can light a fire that burns for centuries. So, could you be remembered forever? Maybe not by name, but by spirit? Absolutely. Because you were more than a person. You were an idea. And ideas, once they're born, never really die. And over the centuries, that idea spreads, not just from scroll to scroll, but from mind to mind. People don't just talk about you. They become you in their own way. Copying your curiosity. Mimicking your courage. Living your legacy. Your teachings inspire rebels, inventors, dreamers. They whisper your quotes in secret meetings. They cite your logic in court debates. They draw your star maps on cave walls. 1,000 small echoes that ripple forward. By the year 1000 CE, you're part of folklore. By the year 1600, you're in a banned manuscript. By 1800, scholars rediscover your story and debate its authenticity. And in 2025, your name trends on a conspiracy forum. Was there really a time traveler who changed civilization? A stranger who knew too much? Could he have been real? You're the ghost behind the curtain of history. The footnote that shouldn't exist. The paradox that can't be explained. But does it matter if they know your face? Not really. Because truthfully, immortality isn't about fame. It's about impact. And whether or not they spell your name right. Whether or not they believe the stories. The world changed just a little because of you. Let's say all this time, through the teachings, the wandering, the trials and whispers, a question has quietly haunted you. Can I go back? Not just emotionally, physically, back to 2025. Back to where you came from. It's not crazy. You've seen movies. Read stories. There's always a way, right? A portal, a machine, a hidden map. Or maybe, just maybe, time itself bends to intent. If you came here, surely there's a path back. The question becomes obsession. You begin looking for patterns, dates, stars, shadows. You remember the moment you arrived, the exact position of the sun, the smells, the pressure. Every detail burns in your mind like a secret code. You retrace steps, revisit locations, ask strange questions of priests and astrologers. You study eclipses, solstices, and earthquakes. Maybe it's science. Maybe it's magic. Maybe both. One night, you hike alone to a mountain, the highest nearby. The same kind of place ancient people called sacred. The kind of place stories say the sky speaks. You light a fire. You draw symbols. You scream at the heavens. Nothing. Just wind. But the question doesn't die. It evolves. What if you could go back? Would you? After everything you've done, everyone you've met, would you really abandon this? You've made a difference. Maybe a small one. Maybe world-changing. You've had pain, hunger, terror, but also awe, connection, and meaning. The past somehow gave you purpose. Still, your heart aches. You miss music, laughter in your own language, the smell of coffee, your mother's voice, your name. Could you go back? You remember the dreams, the flickers of your modern life, the feel of a phone, a text message, a train. Maybe it's memory. Maybe it's madness. You begin to plan a theory. If you arrived on a solstice, a rare planetary alignment, maybe you can use the next one. You gather people, disciples, scholars, builders. You draw blueprints for a machine, a monument, a beacon. They don't understand fully, but they trust you. They carve stone, reflect light, channel wind and heat. You direct them like a conductor without a score. It takes years. Then the day arrives. The alignment, the moment you've calculated. You stand at the center of the circle. Everything is in place. You close your eyes. And then light, heat, vibration. When you open your eyes, you're still there. Nothing has changed. Or maybe everything has. Because suddenly you're at peace. You realize it's not about getting back. It never was. It's about making here matter. Making this life, however strange, however far from what you planned, count. And in that moment, you let go of the obsession. You turn back to your students. You smile. And you continue. Because this, right now, is where you're meant to be. In the months that follow, something shifts inside you. You stop dreaming of city lights and apps. You stop wishing for modern comforts. Instead, you start wondering what else you can leave behind. What else you can build. You begin writing, by hand. Long scrolls of everything you remember from your time. Science, medicine, stories. You create a book, not for fame, not for proof, but for protection. So that someday, someone might read it and know just a little more. You teach the villagers how to make better shelters, how to rotate crops, how to purify water. You start a school under a tree. It grows into something more. A place of questions, of wonder. People from far-off places come to meet the teacher in the hills. They bring their own ideas. They add their own verses. And slowly, what began as your attempt to return becomes a new way forward for many. And maybe one night, many years later, when the stars align again and you lie beneath them, you feel that pull again. That impossible vibration. And you wonder, not because you want to leave anymore, but just because now, you believe it could have happened. You close your eyes. You smile. And whether or not that portal ever opens, whether or not you ever step through it again, you already made it back. Because you brought your world here. And you gave it away, piece by piece, one lesson at a time. Years have passed since you gave up the idea of returning. The mountain where you first stood under the stars has become a holy site. Not for religion, for knowledge. The stone monument still stands, weather-worn but intact. Children visit it and trace the carvings with their fingers. They ask questions their parents can't always answer. And so the cycle of curiosity begins anew. You're older now, wiser, and quieter. Your hair is gray, your back bent, your hands covered in the ink of 100 scrolls. You no longer rush to teach. You let the questions come to you. The school beneath the tree has become a compound. There are buildings now, mud brick at first, but later stone and tile. You've helped design water systems, mills, and sun clocks. You've overseen the training of farmers, midwives, and metalworkers. Your students have grown up. Some became builders, others healers. A few left to start new villages, carrying your lessons like sacred texts. One day, a girl returns from the east. She's built her own school, one that teaches logic and kindness equally. You smile because you see it now. You didn't need to go back to 2025. You brought 2025 here, piece by piece, not with machines, not with power, but with stories, with science, with patience. And now, something unexpected happens. The ripples reach further. A traveling philosopher arrives. He carries word from another land. A man far away has claimed to see the stars in ways you described. He teaches about orbits, about cause and effect, about a world not ruled by gods, but by natural law. You've never met him, but your ideas did. And you realize influence is not about control. It's about connection. So you write more. You send scrolls with travelers. You whisper stories into clay tablets. You draw diagrams on cloth. Some are lost. Some are burned. But some survive. Centuries from now, a historian might hold one of those scrolls and wonder, who was this person? And even though your name might be gone, your fingerprint stays. Not on glass, on time. The legacy within the silence. One day, while walking along the riverbank, you find a small boy sketching shapes in the sand. Triangles, circles. He's replicating a sundial. He doesn't see you approach. He's deep in concentration, eyes lit up with purpose. You crouch beside him and ask why he's drawing. He replies, "I want to measure the shadows, like you did." That's when it hits you. You're not just passing on facts, you're teaching a way of seeing. This world, 25 years older than you, now belongs to a generation born with eyes opened not by superstition, but by understanding. You write a final scroll. It's not filled with instructions. It's a letter to the future. You tuck it inside a clay jar and bury it beneath the roots of the old tree where your school began. You don't know if anyone will find it, but it doesn't matter, because your real message is already planted in minds, in questions, in dreams. And every time someone wonders why or how or what if, a part of you answers them. One last lesson. As your final years settle in, the fear of death disappears. Not because it won't come, it will, but because you've left something behind that death can't touch. Not monuments, not fame, but momentum. You once wanted to escape. Now you simply breathe. The stars above no longer call you back. They shine like witnesses, quiet and ancient. And you understand? Legacy isn't built from returning home. It's made by building one wherever you land. Generations have passed. Your school still stands, although it's been rebuilt a dozen times. What began as clay and hope has become carved stone and tradition. Your teachings, once seen as magic, have woven themselves into the very fabric of this society. They no longer know your name, not the way you once whispered it under your breath before sleep, but they know your stories. They've become folklore, curriculum, family bedtime tales. You're not remembered as a traveler from the future. You're remembered as a visionary of the past. And the irony is, the future you once belonged to finally finds its way here. A curious stranger. One quiet morning, a caravan arrives from the north. Among them is a woman, dressed strangely, speaking a dialect that seems familiar, yet twisted by centuries of evolution. She carries a book. A bound book, not a scroll. It's old, worn. On its first page is a sketch of the monument you built under that first solstice alignment. Your monument. She calls it the Stargate. She says it's based on ancient records. Clay tablets found in a desert excavation. Scroll fragments discovered in a half-burnt temple. They were translated, debated, studied. And pieced together, they tell the story of you. Not with accuracy, not always with kindness, but with awe. You listen, quiet and wide-eyed, because what she's describing, it's history, but it's your history. Echoes and footprints. She tells of scientists in the far north studying astronomical alignments, of children across empires reciting a quote, "Knowledge is not an enemy, it is a tool." She tells of inventions, plows, irrigation systems, early maps whose roots lead back to your little valley, your drawings, your whispered lessons by the fire. She says some call you a myth, others a prophet, and some just a man who dared to ask, "What if?" You smile, because all of them are true. The final conversation. The woman, whose name is Lyra, asks you the one question no one has ever dared ask. Was it you? And you don't answer. You simply nod toward the stars. She understands. She doesn't press. Instead, she asks what you want her to do with this knowledge. And you say, don't worship it, share it, improve it, then let it go. She stays for weeks, documenting your stories, copying your maps, listening to your students. And when she leaves, she takes a copy of your final scroll with her. Not for fame, not for proof, but so that the world keeps asking questions. When the circle closes, long after you're gone, Lyra's descendants continue the work. One becomes a historian. One becomes an inventor. One becomes a teacher who opens a new kind of school with both ancient wisdom and modern technology on its walls. One even becomes a digital archivist who scans your scrolls into a memory bank for future generations. And the world keeps spinning. Your world. Our world. One shaped not just by kings or wars, but by one person who accidentally fell into the past and decided to make it a future worth living in. An unmarked monument. Years later, an archaeological team in a now modern city uncovers something buried deep beneath a withered tree, a sealed clay jar. Inside, still intact, is a scroll. It's a letter to the future, written in ink that's barely legible in a language that once bridged centuries. It begins, "If you are reading this, then curiosity has survived." Scholars debate its origin. Philosophers quote it. Museums display replicas of it. It inspires books, documentaries, debates. And no one agrees on who wrote it. But they all agree on one thing. Whoever wrote it changed everything. You once dreamt of returning to 2025. But now, the future has returned to you. Not in a time machine, not in glowing screens or smart devices, but in spirit, in echoes, in consequences. This chapter is not about what you left behind, but what became of it. Because in the years that followed your disappearance into history, the world you touched began to stretch outward. Villages became towns. Those towns traded with others. Ideas, more powerful than swords or fire, traveled from mouth to ear, scroll to scroll. You see glimpses of what you once knew. Stone roads modeled on your sketches. Water systems inspired by your makeshift aqueducts. Medicine that still smells like honey and garlic, but now with discipline. And the questions you once asked, the ones that got you arrested, the ones that saved lives, they've become the foundation of a movement. Schools are built. Libraries are founded. Debate becomes culture. Reason becomes sacred. It's not the future you knew, but it's the future you helped create. In another city, centuries later, an observatory is built. Its dome faces the sky the way you once did, breath held, eyes wide. A scholar there teaches that the earth is round, not because she read it in a book, but because it's been passed from teacher to student, generation after generation, all the way from you. The scrolls you buried? Some survive. Some are quoted in whispers. Others inspire rebellion, discovery, peace treaties. And your name? It changes, becomes legend, then myth, then something even more powerful, anonymous wisdom. You are not a god, not a king, not even a saint. You are the reason someone, somewhere asks, why not? And the future, that noisy, bright, strange world you came from, it never needed to come back for you. Because you gave it away to the past, piece by piece, and made it real. Yet even deeper into time's unfolding, long after stone has eroded and books have crumbled, your spirit endures, not as memory, but as method. Somewhere, a young girl scribbles in the dirt and watches shadows dance. She's taught that the stars are not gods, but puzzles. Her teacher is the child of a child of a child who once sat under your tree. A new generation emerges, not bound by fear, but guided by wonder. They chart new maps. They cure new sicknesses. They build not just roads and machines, but questions that spark more questions. You are no longer needed. And that, in the truest sense, is proof that you succeeded. What do you leave behind when no one remembers your face, only your questions? Generations later, In a quiet valley, not unlike the one where you first arrived, a child sits beside a stream. He watches the water, listens to the wind, and sketches symbols in the sand with a stick. The people around him know nothing of you.
They've never heard your name.
But his teacher once told him a story about someone who taught people to think, not just to obey. That boy is now doing what you once did, wondering. The legacy is not in stone or scrolls anymore. It lives in instinct, to ask, to build, to wonder what's just beyond the hill or the stars. You became the starting point for a civilization's second awakening. In faraway cities, new languages echo with old ideas. In grand lecture halls and quiet farm fields alike, curiosity thrives. Scientists chart stars on software born from logic you seeded long ago. Engineers solve problems with tools that trace their ancestry back to your broken sketches. Philosophers ask not whether gods will be pleased, but whether ideas will serve people. Your past life, 2025, and its conveniences, its anxieties, its noise, is gone. But its heartbeat pulses quietly in every act of learning. The world you knew has evolved in a new direction. One you couldn't predict. One that didn't require you to return. You didn't just change history. You made a new kind. And long after time forgets the moment you arrived, it will still echo the one thing you gave it. The courage to question. There comes a time when even the most extraordinary story must find its final words, not because there's nothing left to tell, but because the story has already begun again somewhere else. You are gone now, not in memory, not in myth. You've simply passed into what all great forces become, foundation. Where there once stood a traveler confused by stars, now stand generations who understand them. Where once there was a fear of gods and curses, there is now knowledge, reason, and responsibility. The place where you taught? Now a city. The tree where you sat? A monument. The scrolls you wrote? Copied, debated, then replaced with even greater truths. This world, your adopted home, no longer needs to remember you to remember what you gave. And maybe that's the most human thing of all. We are not remembered for the selfies we took or the noise we made. We are remembered in how we made others think, grow, and change. You didn't just time travel, you time taught. And even though you're not around to witness it, someone, somewhere, in a room lit by moonlight or in a field beneath stars, is starting to ask a question. A question only they can answer, just like you once did. So this is the end of your story, but it's also the beginning of theirs. And that might be the greatest legacy of all. Maybe someday, far in the future, another soul will find themselves out of place, tossed across centuries, unsure of where they've landed. They'll feel lost, confused, alone. But then they'll find a village where knowledge is sacred. They'll see a child asking questions out loud, not silenced, not punished. They'll see people debating in the open, sharing bread and ideas in the same breath. And maybe they'll see a statue under a tree, faceless, nameless, but with a plaque that reads, "Dedicated to the first questioner." Then they'll know. Someone was here. Someone who once stood at the edge of time and chose not to run back, but to build forward. And in that moment, the story will begin again. Not with you, with them. And even deeper into that future, perhaps someone will come across a strange quote carved into a wall or buried in an ancient code. The future is built by those who teach the past to ask questions. It won't be attributed. It won't be sourced. But it won't have to be. Because by then, the origin won't matter. Only the result will. The ripple of an idea that traveled 20-25 years through time, not by machine, but by mind. And maybe, just maybe, another time traveler somewhere will read it and smile. not because they found a way home, but because they realized they were never truly lost to begin with. They pass on, like wind through leaves, like fire passed from one torch to another, like a question whispered in the dark, waiting for the next brave voice to answer it. And when that voice rises, however distant, however new, it will carry your spirit in it. Not as history, but as possibility. Not as a relic, but as a reason. Not as memory, but as momentum.